What's going on? Welcome to the video. Today what I'm doing is I'm making a tier list of all the most popular chest exercises, and what I'm gonna do is I'm going to rank them in order of the most elite chest exercises to the great ones, to the good ones, to the average ones, all the way down to the ones that I really dislike. And how I'm rating them in what tier is gonna be based on my own experience training over the last 12 years or so. It's gonna be based on my preferences and my opinions. So by no means am I saying that everything I say here in this video is exactly fact, or that someone else can't feel differently about some of these movements. So just keep that in mind, and I'd love to hear your comments down below. Leave a comment if you agree with some of these exercises, if you like them, if you dislike them. I'd love to hear what all of your thoughts are as well. So I'm gonna start off with the chest exercises that are flat movements, flat pressing movements, and then I'll go on to the incline movements and then the decline movements. So let's start off with the king of chest exercises, which is the flat barbell bench press. So I'm gonna take that one and probably rightfully so put it in the elite tier, because again, it's the king of chest exercises. People have been doing it for decades. It can definitely help build a bigger, stronger chest. It's actually not my favorite chest exercise. It's one that I actually don't do too frequently anymore, but I do think that the reason it's in the elite tier is there's going to be some variation of a flat chest press in every workout where you want to hit the chest, right? So I would consider this, along with one or two others, as the best options for a flat pressing movement when it comes to building muscle and strength in your chest. So for the next flat pressing exercise, let's go with the dumbbell bench press, which I'm also going to put in the elite tier. Now, this probably is my favorite chest exercise, and it's definitely my preference over the barbell chest press. And there's a few reasons for that. The main one being that your hands and your wrists and your arms aren't locked into a fixed position like they are with a barbell, which in the past has hurt my wrists and has been slightly uncomfortable compared to a dumbbell press, where you have a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more of an option to go more of a neutral grip or rotate your hands inward a little bit. It doesn't have to be a strict press where your hands are in a fixed position. So when it comes to a flat chest press, one of these two options, in my opinion, is gonna be your best options. Next, we have a seated machine chest press. They have different variations of these at different gyms, right? Some of them have like a hammer strength chest press machine where you are seated, but you load the plates onto the sides. Some gyms have a seated chest press machine that looks like this one here, where there's a stack of weights and you select, you take the pin and you put it in the weights that you want, and you're pressing right in front. Now, I'm a big fan of machines in general, but for a machine chest press, I think they're really good. I think that they're a little bit more isolated than, say, a barbell chest press or a dumbbell chest press. There's not the need to obviously stabilize like the free weights, so that's why it's a little bit more isolated. But it can be a very good option if for whatever reason you are against free weights or you're not comfortable with free weights. A seated machine press can be a great way to build a bigger, stronger chest. But for me, the reason I'm putting it in the great tier rather than elite is because I just simply prefer the free weights. I think that if I had the choice to go with one of these three options as kind of my main chest pressing movement, I would select the machine last in this scenario. But I still think it's a really great option, and I would still take that as an option compared to many of the other exercises we're gonna go through in this list here. So next, let's go with the Smith machine flat chest press here. Now, the Smith machine is a good tool and a good machine that I really like some exercises with, and I really don't like others with. You know, I'm gonna put this exercise in the good tier. So it's below the barbell bench press, it's below the dumbbell chest press, and it's also below the seated machine chest press. And that's because I personally don't love it as an option. I've done it multiple times in the past. It just seems more inconvenient. You have to drag the bench over to the Smith machine. You have to get it at the right exact spot. You have to test it out to make sure that the bar is coming down right at the part of the chest that you want. There's a lot of setup required that, quite frankly, I just don't have the patience for all the time, and I'd much rather just grab the dumbbells that I need, go down and do my set, or, you know, get set up on the bench press and use a barbell, or sit on a machine and just start pressing. So in that regard, that's why I don't like it as much as these other flat pressing options. But like I said before, that doesn't mean it's bad at all. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. I have many clients who go to Planet Fitness, for example, where they don't have a barbell, or they don't even have the dumbbells that go up heavy enough that they need to do a flat chest press for, you know, a lower amount of reps. So they're actually using the Smith machine, and I've programmed them the Smith machine flat bench press for that reason. So it can be a great option. Some people might put this in the elite tier, but for me and my preferences and what I like, I'm putting it down in the good tier. And those are the reasons for it. Next up, we've got a good old-fashioned push-up. You know, the oldest exercise in the history of time, probably. I don't know that for a fact, but it's a great exercise. I'm going to put it in the great category. And the reason for that is because of its versatility and how accessible it is, right? You can do it anywhere at any time. You can do it at home if you're at a hotel. You could do it at the gym. You could do it when you're on vacation. You could do it in your house, or you could do it outside. And there's all these different variations of push-ups, right? You could make it a little bit easier. You could modify it if you're more of a beginner and drop your knees to the ground and still go through a full range of motion push-up, you know, really strengthening and training the chest, even with your knees on the ground. Or if you're more advanced and you want to make it harder, there's a number of things you could do to make it harder, like elevating your feet onto a bench or a platform. You could add weight to it, right? You could do a weighted push-up by having someone put a plate on your back. Overall, I think it's a great exercise. You can change your hand placement. You can go wider, you can go a little bit more narrow. So I'm putting it in the great category because everyone can do it. Whether you're 80 years old, or whether you're 11, or whether you're a professional athlete or a professional bodybuilder, everyone can do it. The reason why I'm putting it in the great tier rather than elite is because it's not an exercise I would choose to do as the main movement for a chest day or a push day, right? I would rather do a weighted exercise like a dumbbell chest press, or even a machine press, or a barbell bench press. I'd like to use more load and more resistance as my main foundational movement. I might throw in some push-ups at the end of a chest workout or a push workout, almost as a burnout, once I've used extra load and extra resistance. But for someone, for example, who trains at home, who doesn't have any equipment or has very limited dumbbells or equipment to use at home, maybe a push-up is the main chest movement that you're focusing on in the workout. So for that person, I could totally see it being in the elite tier, and I could totally see it being a main movement in your routine. But for me and my preferences, it's not the main movement, right? I really like going to the gym. I really like using the equipment they have there. So that's why it's in the great category. Now let's move on. We've got, looks like one more flat pressing movement here, one or two. So this one I'm gonna go to is a floor barbell press. This one, I'll be honest, I don't love. I'm not gonna put it in the dislike tier. I'm not gonna put it at the lowest tier, but I'm gonna put it in the average tier, because you absolutely can strengthen your chest and, you know, build some muscle doing it. but it's just nowhere near as optimal as some of these other options that I've ranked higher, because the range of motion is significantly limited, right? Your elbows are only coming basically partially or halfway to where they could be. Sitting on a flat bench or laying on a flat bench, you're gonna have a much wider range of motion and be able to have more tension on the muscle, more time under tension. You're gonna be able to isolate the muscle a little bit better. And I find that on a floor press, I'm often using more of my triceps than I'd like to be because of that limited range of motion. So for that reason, I'm putting it in the average tier. It's not a bad exercise by any means, but as far as building muscle in your chest, as far as getting stronger in your chest, I like these other options way more. Now, here we have a close grip barbell press. Close grip barbell press, and this is the first one I'm gonna put in the dislike category. Now, let me be clear, I don't dislike this as an exercise. I just dislike it as an exercise if you're trying to target the chest, because I feel this so much more in my triceps. A close grip barbell press, or even if you were to do it with dumbbells, I don't like this if you're trying to hit your chest. I'd much rather you do a normal shoulder width apart hand grip, or even a little bit wider than that to more so bias the chest. So for that reason, again, for triceps, I'll do this exercise anytime. I really like it for triceps, but it's not something I'm gonna throw in my program with the intent of targeting my chest. Here's another one, which is a exercise ball dumbbell press for the chest, and that one is also going in the dislike category. Man, I wish there was I absolutely hate this tier, because this is the one I dislike the most in this entire group, and let me try to articulate why that is. So if you're doing a chest press, the main goal usually is going to be to strengthen your chest or to build muscle or to get stronger. But if you don't have a stable platform and you're doing it on a exercise ball, it's gonna really hurt your ability to load the chest and do the amount of weight that your chest is actually capable of lifting. And in the past, I've heard the rebuttal to that is, well, this is functional strength, right? This is, helping me be functional out in the world. When in the world are you going to find yourself on a ball on your back, right? Like, never once in my 30 years have I ever found myself in that situation. I would argue that a push-up is more functional, because you may find yourself on the ground. Maybe you fell, or as you get older, you fall down and you need to be able to push yourself up. You're never going to find yourself upside down on a big exercise ball. And you're not gonna train your core that way. Like, you could just do normal core exercises if you wanna strengthen your core, just like you'll do normal chest exercises if you wanna strengthen your chest. In the picture here, the woman's using like barely any weight, right? It's very light weights, because if she was to use more weight that maybe she's actually capable of, if she went on a bench, she would tip over. She wouldn't be able to stabilize herself. So it's just trying to do too much all at once, and because of it, you're really inefficiently training the chest. And you're actually putting yourself at a higher risk of injury trying to balance on a ball while both of your hands are occupied, so you can't put a hand out to stop yourself from tipping over. So hope that makes sense. Let's move on to the dumbbell flies. So these are done on a flat bench, dumbbell flies, which I'm going to put in the good tier. All right, so this is an exercise, for example, that I haven't done in ages because I don't love it, and there's other options that I highly prefer compared to dumbbell flies done on a flat bench. Now, again, that's not to say it's not effective. I used to do these all the time when I was younger, and you'll absolutely will feel it in your chest. So I put it in the good tier for that reason. But over the last 5 years or so, I've highly preferred cables when doing any sort of fly movement, whether it's a decline fly, a regular fly, or even a machine, right? Like a pec deck fly machine. I highly prefer that, which is basically kind of like a cable pulley system setup. So dumbbells, I love. but I don't love them for doing chest flies. So let's go ahead and select the seated chest fly machine, which, like I just said, I do prefer to the dumbbell. So I'm gonna put this in the great tier. And my gym actually has 2 versions of these flies, and I like them both. And I really enjoy the resistance and the constant tension you get in a machine like this. It's a very isolated movement. Obviously, this isn't an exercise that you would make as your main chest movement for the day, right? Because it's not a compound movement, it's a very isolated movement. So I use this more as a accessory or more isolated movement towards the end of my chest workout. So now let's go with the cable flies, which I'm going to put in the elite tier. Cable flies, that goes for straight on, flat cable flies, as well as decline cable flies. I really like this. Like I said before, it is my favorite variation of chest flies because it just feels the most comfortable. You've got that constant tension the entire time. You can really go through a full range of motion, and unlike a seated chest fly machine, you can adjust your positioning or your angle to make it more of a straight on chest fly or more of a decline fly. And I really like that versatility. I really like that wiggle room and flexibility to be able to kind of adjust it to the angle that I want. So that's why I'm putting this in the elite tier, and that's my favorite version of chest flies. However, next up we've got the low to high cable flies, or I suppose you could call them an incline cable fly. And interestingly enough, this exercise I don't like. I don't dislike it enough to put it in the dislike tier. I'm gonna put it in the average tier. I've had this in my program. I've done it myself. My coach has put it in my program. I've actually programmed it for some of my clients as well. But every time I do it, I always feel it more in my delts than I do my chest. And when you've got that constant tension on those cables and you're lifting up against gravity, I'm always feeling it more biasing a bit of the front delts here. And I don't feel it enough in the chest to even put it in the good category, never mind the great category. So for that reason, that's one of my lesser preferred variations of a chest fly. So let's go on to some of these incline chest movements. The first one is the traditional barbell bench press incline. That one I'm gonna put in the elite tier, all right? So similar to the flat bench press, I think this is probably one of the best options to hit the upper part of the chest. Again, whether you prefer the dumbbells or the barbell, I think one variation of those is gonna be the best option that you get. And I've been doing more of these recently. I do more incline barbell pressing than I do flat barbell pressing. And I'm not sure there's any particular reason for that, but the incline barbell pressing feels a little bit better, a little bit more comfortable. I really feel it targeting the upper part of the chest really well, and I'm a big fan of the exercise. Now, when it comes to dumbbells, I'm also going to put the incline dumbbell press in the elite tier because, like I said before, whether you prefer the dumbbells or the barbell, I think one of those two options are almost equally as effective when it comes to the main focus as an incline pressing movement, and it's just up to you and your preference. Again, I also prefer the dumbbells for this movement. I'm a guy who generally likes to go with dumbbells rather than a barbell. So I might choose a dumbbell whether I'm pressing flat or I'm doing an incline press. And again, it's just due to more comfort in my hands and my wrists, not being locked into a fixed position, but being able to have a little bit more of a neutral position with my hands, and being able to, really go through the range of motion and the path that I prefer. Let's go on to the incline Smith machine press, which I'm actually a big fan of. I'm gonna put that in the great tier, which is higher, one tier higher than I put the flat Smith machine press. So I much more prefer the Smith machine for incline movements compared to flat pressing movements, obviously for that reason. And I can't even exactly tell you why that is, but I think it's just a little bit more comfortable to get into an incline pressing movement when it comes to the Smith machine. It feels really solid, really comfortable. You can load on plenty of weight and it's like really safe compared to like a barbell, where if you don't have a spotter, you might run into some trouble trying to get that barbell back up and racked on an incline press compared to a Smith machine where you can just twist the bar and it will re-rack itself. I've done more of this Smith machine incline pressing over the last 1 or 2 years, and surprisingly, I've kind of liked it more than I remember in the past. Next, we have an incline chest press machine. All right, now this one I'm also going to put in the great tier because I'm a fan of the incline pressing machines, whether it's a hammer strength or whether it's more of a traditional machine. I use this machine at my gym all the time, and I think it's a great option for someone who really wants to isolate the top part of the chest well. It's a great alternative if there's no benches taken, right? If you don't want to use a barbell or dumbbells or that equipment is being used, this is a great alternative, and I find myself doing it pretty frequently. And similar to the flat seated chest press machine, it's going to help you with the proper form. It's going to help with really isolating the muscles, maybe even a lot easier than with dumbbells or a barbell, and it's obviously very safe as well. A push-up variation that I missed, which is the close grip push-up or a diamond push-up, I'm going to put that in the average tier. Now, I rated the regular traditional push-ups in the great tier, so the reason for ranking the diamond push-up so much lower is because it really is very much more tricep focused. And don't get me wrong, you'll definitely hit some of the chest, or you'll hit chest a little bit, but more of a secondary mover compared to a push-up where your hands are wider. So for that reason, again, if we're talking about really focusing on the chest, isolating the chest and movements that will help build the chest or strengthen the chest, you don't want to do a movement that is more tricep focused, that's possibly even more dominant on the triceps compared to the chest. Let's move on to the hanging dips. Now, hanging dips are one of the hardest exercises to do, but they're one of my favorites. And I'm going to put this one in the elite tier. And maybe that's wishful thinking, maybe it's more deserving to be in the great tier, but it's definitely up in one of those top 2 tiers in my opinion. And that's because you can do this body weight or you can add weight to it. And even the body weight is incredibly hard. You know, I'm rarely getting more than 10 or 12 reps, even doing it body weight, but I also do have a dip belt that I wear. It goes around my waist, and it's got a chain, and you can attach plates and other weights to it to basically add load, add more resistance to the exercise. So I'm a big fan of this for the lower part of the chest. And what I like about it as well is that you can, like the push-ups and like some of the other movements here, you can adjust your positioning and your hand placement to be more chest focused or to be more tricep focused. So based on your positioning, you may hit more triceps than the lower part of the chest, but if you're positioning yourself properly, it can be excellent for hitting that bottom part of the chest. And usually the way to do that is to lean forward more on the hanging dip station, lean more forward rather than being more upright. That's gonna give you a little bit of a better angle to hit the chest compared to the triceps. We're wrapping up, we're near the end here. I'm gonna go with a decline barbell bench press. I'm gonna put this in the good tier. All right, and the reason for that, it could very well be added to the great tier, I think. I think it's between good and great, and I can't tell you the last time I did this exercise, and that's why. This is what it's all about. Like I'm saying before, this is about my personal preferences, right? It's me making the video. If you make your video, maybe you wanna put it somewhere else. For me, I don't love it simply because of convenience. If you've ever done a decline barbell bench press, it's pretty uncomfortable. You're sort of hanging laying almost upside down. The blood's rushing to your head. It's a difficult position to get up to. You've got to reach up pretty high to get the bar. You know, it's often pretty hard to get the bar back into the position, you know, where it's held. So just out of convenience and being in a sort of uncomfortable position, I'm putting it in the good category. But, you know, don't get me wrong, it's a very good exercise. You definitely can strengthen your chest and build muscle in the chest, and it's good for that lower part of the chest as well. I just highly prefer the hanging dips when it comes to hitting that lower part of the chest. Here we have a push-up done on a exercise ball or a medicine ball, and that's going into the dislike tier because, again, this is similar to a diamond push-up. It's not a bad exercise at all. It's pretty cool. It's hard, but it's gonna predominantly hit the triceps more so than the chest. So for that reason, because it's way more focused on the triceps than I would like it to be, it's going in the dislike tier. Now we've got a dumbbell pullover, which is typically done on a flat bench, and you're holding one dumbbell over your head. And this is also going in the dislike tier. Again, I don't dislike the exercise as a whole, I dislike it for chest. And that's just my own personal opinion. I generally feel this more in my lats than I do my chest. And there are ways that you can bias a little bit more of the chest or, you know, have it be more of a back focused exercise. But for me, again, it's never been an exercise that I've really found myself able to target and activate the chest effectively well doing this exercise. So I would prefer it more for lats. And the last one we're gonna go over here is a plate push, which you hold the plate and you push it out in front of you. I used to do this when I was a kid in like high school and college when I didn't really know what I was doing. And I'm gonna put this in the dislike category as well, because even though you might feel your chest contract, like even doing it right now without any weight, I can contract my chest. But the nature of holding a plate and pushing it out in front of you is that gravity's taking that weight down, right? And so to resist that gravity and resist that weight from going down towards the ground, you're activating your delts here, right? Your shoulders. From keeping that weight going down, it's more of a shoulder workout than it is a chest workout. Just because you feel your chest squeeze together when you put your arms like this doesn't mean it's effective for working the chest. And you know, it's more related to like a forward raise in a way than it is like a chest press or a chest variation of a push. So that's my thoughts on that exercise. And that wraps up the chest exercise tier list. I'm not sure if I missed any. Comment down below if there's any exercises that I missed or that I don't have listed here. But in the elite tier, we've got the flat barbell press, we've got the flat dumbbell press, we've got cable flies, we've got incline barbell bench press, incline dumbbell press, and hanging dips. So those are my personal favorite chest focused exercises. And then we've got a number of other exercises following in the great category, in the good category, and then a few in the average and dislike categories as well. I hope this video was interesting and got you thinking about where you would rate these exercises in which tier. Let me know down below in the comments as well if you'd like me to do this type of video with a different muscle group, with legs, biceps, triceps, back, shoulders. I thought it was pretty interesting and it was fun to make. So I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, consider subscribing to my channel because I make new videos just like this every single week, and give the video a thumbs up. And hopefully I'll see you on the next video, which I'm going to leave right here.